It's a Tuesday. You wake up without an alarm, no email screaming at you, no commute, no boss. You walk to the kitchen, make a coffee, and sit by the window. And while you were sleeping, you got paid, not from a job, from money you set up years ago, money that now works harder than you ever did. This is what living off dividends actually feels like. And here in Australia, it's not a fantasy reserved for the rich. It's one of the most achievable forms of financial freedom on the planet because of something almost no other country has. I'm Jack. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how much you need, the real numbers, and the path most Aussies completely miss. Let's start with why Australia is genuinely one of the best places on earth to do this. When an Australian company pays you a dividend, it is usually already paid 30% company tax on those profits. And the government doesn't make you pay tax on that same money twice. Instead, it hands you a credit for the tax already paid. It's called a franking credit. And it changes everything. Here's what it means in plain terms. When you see a 4% dividend yield on the ASX, the real grossed up yield is closer to 5.5%, sometimes 6%. You're getting a meaningful boost just for investing in Australian companies. This system has been around since 1987, and Australia is one of only a handful of countries left in the world that still runs it. In the US, the UK, most of Europe, dividend investors get taxed twice, which is why an Aussie portfolio paying 4% can quietly beat an American one paying the exact same headline number. You didn't choose where you were born, but if you're investing in Australia, you've already been dealt a better hand than almost anyone. So let's get to the question you actually clicked for. How much do you really need? The Association of Superannuation Funds of Australia, the people who study this for a living, say a single person needs around $54,000 a year for a comfortable retirement. A couple, around $77,000. That's private health cover, running a car, a holiday each year, dinners out without checking your bank balance first. Want the lean version? A modest lifestyle is closer to $35,000 for a single, $51,000 for a couple. And if you want the full version and need overseas trips, eating out whenever you like, a new car every few years, you're realistically looking at $100,000 a year or more. Now hold those numbers in your head, because here's where it gets real. Across the ASX 200, the average dividend yield sits at around 4% in 2026. Add franking credits, and that grosses up to roughly 5.5. Lean into higher yield companies, and you can push towards 6 or 7% grossed up. So let's use 5.5%. A sensible, realistic number for a diversified Aussie dividend portfolio. Now watch how simple this becomes. If you want $50,000 a year, you need around $910,000 invested, $75,000 a year, about 1.36 million, $100,000 a year, roughly 1.8 million. In the genuinely luxurious life, $150,000 a year, around 2.7 million. I know those numbers might feel huge right now, but stay with me because here's the part almost everyone gets wrong. You do not need to save that money. You need to grow it, and that's a completely different game. Before the path, one thing nobody tells you. Even with dividends, tax still matters. But in Australia, it works in your favor more than you'd think. The tax-free threshold is $18,200, and franking credits shield a huge chunk of your dividend income on top of that. In fact, and this surprises almost everyone, if dividends are your only income, you can earn around $30,000 in fully franked dividends and pay basically zero net tax. The franking credits cancel out your bill completely. $30,000 a year, tax-free, just for owning the right Australian companies. That's not a loophole. That's the system working exactly as designed. So how do you actually get there? not by saving $900,000, by investing consistently and letting compounding do the heavy lifting. Invest $1,500 a month into a diversified Aussie share portfolio averaging 8% total return, which is below the long-term ASX average, and you hit 900,000 in about 19 years. Bump it to 2,000 a month, and you're there in around 17. Start in your late 20s, and you could be financially free before 50. And there's a second lever most people ignore completely, where you hold these investments. Dividend shares held inside Super are taxed at just 15% while you're building, and 0 once you hit pension phase. That's why a lot of Aussies chasing dividend freedom run 2 portfolios at once. One inside Super for long-term tax efficiency, and one outside Super for income they can actually touch before preservation age. Now, let me save you from the single biggest mistake new dividend investors make: chasing the highest yield. If you see a stock on the ASX paying 12%, your first reaction shouldn't be excitement. It should be suspicion. A yield that high almost always means one of two things. Either the share price has collapsed because the business is in trouble, or the dividend is about to be cut. It's a trap, and it catches beginners every single time. The companies that pay sustainable, growing dividends decade after decade are the boring ones. The big banks, Wesfarmers, BHP, Telstra, Woolworths, the major insurers. They're not exciting. They won't make you rich overnight, but they'll pay you forever. And forever is the entire point. Now, if picking individual companies sounds stressful, there's a smarter way, especially when you're starting out. Aussie dividend ETFs do the heavy lifting for you. One fund can give you the entire top 300 of the ASX. Another targets higher yielding companies. There are funds built for monthly income. With a single trade, you get instant diversification across dozens, even hundreds of dividend-paying companies. For most Australians, a simple 2 ETF portfolio will outperform 90% of stock pickers over 20 years, and you'll sleep a lot better at night. One more thing worth knowing: most Aussie ETFs pay you quarterly, while individual shares usually pay twice a year. Some investors deliberately mix the two, building what's called a dividend calendar, so a payment lands almost every single month. It makes that final switch from salary to dividends feel seamless when the day finally comes. Now the part nobody likes to hear: inflation. If you need $50,000 to live today, you'll need around $67,000 in 10 years, around $90,000 in 20. So why does dividend investing still work long term? Because quality Australian companies grow their dividends over time, usually faster than inflation. The big banks have grown theirs roughly 4 to 5% a year across decades. Your income doesn't just survive inflation, it outruns it. And here's the final piece I want you to hold on to. While you're still building, don't take the cash, reinvest it. Every dividend automatically buys more shares. Those shares pay more dividends, which buy even more shares, and that's the snowball. And by the time you finally flip the switch, from growing to living off it, your portfolio is producing dramatically more than if you'd been spending along the way. So let's bring it all together. To live off dividends forever in Australia, you're realistically looking at somewhere between 900,000 and 1.8 million invested, depending on the life you want. You get there by investing consistently into quality Aussie shares and ETFs, by using franking credits to slash your tax, by avoiding the high-yield traps, and by giving compounding the one thing it really needs: time. That Tuesday morning, the coffee, the quiet, the paycheck that arrived while you slept, it isn't luck, it's a plan. And now you know exactly what that plan looks like. If this helped, hit like. It genuinely helps more Aussies find the channel. Subscribe if you want the realistic version of building wealth, not the get rich quick noise. I'll see you in the next one.